Let me tell you something about life. It's not the smooth road people imagine it to be when they see you standing on top. I was born in 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee, a time and place where dreams didn't come easy for a boy like me. My parents worked hard, moving from place to place, chasing a better life. But even as a kid, I felt something inside me, a quiet voice telling me I was meant for more. You see, I learned early on that life doesn't always move at your pace. Sometimes you have to be still to let life happen. Learning how to be still, to really be still, that stillness becomes a kind of radiance. That calm, it gives you strength when the world is loud and uncertain. Was I always going to be here? No, I was not. There were days when I thought I'd never make it. I was ready to drive taxis, haul trucks, do anything to keep going. You never know what's going to happen, and that's the truth about life. I tell my kids this all the time. If you lay down, people will step over you. But if you keep scrambling, if you keep moving, someone will always give you a hand. Always. But you've got to keep dancing. You've got to keep your feet moving. Because the best way to guarantee a loss is to quit. And I never did. I kept chasing the dream, even when it didn't make sense. If you live a life of make-believe, your life isn't worth anything. Not until you face something real, something that challenges you. And trust me, in my early years, reality hit hard. But that's where my story truly began. You know, when I look back on those early years, the late 50s, the 60s, life was changing, and so was I. I was a young man trying to find my place in a world that didn't always want to see me. Acting wasn't easy to chase when you came from nothing. I took any job I could find, mechanic, clerk, even a stint in the Air Force. But deep down, I knew my soul belonged to the stage. I used to tell people, I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. You can't separate the two. Everything we went through, the struggles, the victories, it all belongs to the story of this country. That truth kept me grounded. You see, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up a little too much space. I had to push myself into uncomfortable places, auditions I wasn't ready for, scripts I barely understood, but that's where growth lies. Your best posture is always your next posture. Every time I failed, I had to stand taller. I had to shift, to adapt, to learn. And that's something I've carried with me my whole life. You never stop moving forward. I'm always trying new things, learning new things. If there isn't anything left to learn, well, you might as well go off and die. Because learning, that's living. And through all those years of doubt and small victories, I learned one important truth. You measure yourself by the people who measure themselves by you. So, I kept my head down, kept grinding, waiting for the world to notice. I didn't know it then, but the man I was becoming was about to change everything. By the time I reached my early 30s, I had seen more closed doors than open ones. Every time I thought I was getting closer to something, it slipped away. But I kept going. I had learned something along the way. You can't take credit for talent. You can only take credit for using it. Talent is a gift, but what you do with it, that's your responsibility. And I wasn't going to waste mine. In those days, kindness mattered to me more than fame ever could. I realized kindness in thinking or giving creates profoundness and happiness. Kindness in saying creates everlasting love. You never forget the people who show you grace when you've got nothing to offer them back. I met folks like that, teachers, friends, even strangers, who reminded me that being good costs nothing, but it changes everything. I always believed that literacy could be the ladder out of poverty. Reading, learning, understanding the world, that's what freed me. Books showed me that I could be more than just another kid from Mississippi. They gave me vision before I ever had a stage. Fatigue, discomfort, discouragement, those were constant companions. But I came to see them for what they were, merely symptoms of effort. If you're tired, it means you're doing something right. It means you're moving. And the moment you start to feel like a victim, you become one. I refuse to carry that label. I wasn't a victim of my circumstances. I was a student of them. Every setback was a lesson. By 1972, I was still struggling, still unknown, but I could feel something changing, like the universe was slowly opening its door. And when it did, everything I'd fought for would finally begin to make sense. By the time I was in my mid-30s, I'd learned something most people spend their whole lives chasing: peace with who you are. Finding joy is probably tantamount to finding yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. And that took me years. I wasn't always sure where I belonged, not in Hollywood, not even in my own dreams sometimes. But I started realizing that joy isn't something you find in success. It's something you find when you stop pretending and start accepting. In those years, I met people who told me to stand out, to be different. But I say, don't be different just for difference sake. If you see it differently, then function that way. Follow your own muse, always. My muse was honesty, showing truth through performance. I didn't need to shout to be seen. I just had to be real. I learned that the world doesn't change overnight. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Sometimes, it's not about the big speeches or the spotlight. It's about the quiet things, the unseen good we do for one another. And somewhere in those moments, I learned about forgiveness. Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. I had to forgive people who doubted me, and I had to forgive myself for not being there sooner. Because you can't move forward carrying old pain. We humans are more concerned with having than with being. But I was beginning to understand that being, just existing truthfully, humbly, fully, that's where the real treasure is. And in that stillness, in that acceptance, something powerful was brewing. The man I had fought to become was finally ready for the world to see him. You know, looking back now, I realize I was never really in control, not completely. I'm a firm believer that things happen as they should. The universe unfolds just as it's supposed to. When I didn't get the roles I wanted, when life seemed to be pulling me backward, it was all just part of a bigger plan. I didn't see it then, but every no was steering me towards something greater. I spent those early years chasing dreams that felt impossible. Some nights, I went to bed wondering if I was fooling myself. But every time I questioned it, life threw me another challenge. And I learned that challenge yourself. It's the only path which leads to growth. Growth doesn't happen when you win. It happens when you get knocked down and decide to stand again. I wasn't famous. I wasn't rich. But I had something just as powerful, faith. Faith that my time would come. Faith that effort meant something. And when things finally started turning my way, I remembered this. If your life turns out to be good and you have a tremendous amount of luck, it's a good thing to turn around and make it work for others. Because the moment you lift someone else, you realize how far you've really come. There's one thing I've learned that never fails. Whatever we decide we want to do is what we do. The mind is a powerful thing. You see it, you believe it, you live it, and the universe follows. That's the truth of it. Sometimes, things always look darkest just before the dawn. I've seen that darkness. I've walked through it. But I promise you, if you keep your faith, your dawn will come too. From the dusty streets of Mississippi to the quiet corners of New York's theaters, my story wasn't about luck. It was about not quitting when the world told me to stop. So, if my journey taught you something today, don't just move on. Hit that subscribe button, share this story, and let's keep history motivating the world together. Your dawn might just begin with that one small step.